I remember the smell of vanilla frosting in the kitchen that morning. Light came through the window at an angle that only happens in early October, soft and golden, touching the counter where a small bakery box sat. I was 52 years old, and the house was quiet in that particular way houses get when someone is deliberately avoiding you. I could hear Sarah upstairs, moving between rooms with purpose. The stairs creaked twice. She came down holding her phone, and I noticed she'd already showered and dressed, even though it was barely 7:30 on a Saturday. "Happy birthday," she said, glancing up from her screen just long enough to meet my eyes. I nodded, poured my coffee, waited. She set her phone face down on the counter. "So, I got you something, but there's been a change of plans." Her voice had that rehearsed quality, the tone she used when she'd already decided how a conversation would go. "Mark really needs the watch. His job interview is Monday, and you know how important first impressions are. I told him he could have it. You understand." I didn't shout. I didn't argue. My hand stayed steady on the coffee mug. "The watch?" I said. "The one I got you. He needs it more right now. You have watches. He doesn't have anything nice." Mark, her ex-husband, the man she'd left 15 years ago because he couldn't keep a job or his promises. I set the mug down with care. "Okay." She blinked. She'd been prepared for resistance. "Okay?" "Yeah, okay." She had no idea what she'd set in motion. My name is David Chen. I'm 52, and I'd spent the last 14 years as a compliance officer for a mid-sized logistics firm. Not glamorous work. I reviewed contracts, flagged discrepancies, made sure numbers lined up. Sarah and I had been married for 16 years. We met at a friend's barbecue, got engaged after 8 months, married the following spring. On the surface, it looked stable, functional. We split bills. We took turns cooking. We had a joint account and separate savings. We didn't fight much, which I'd mistaken for compatibility. But looking back, I could see the erosion. Small things. When we discussed vacation plans, somehow we always ended up where she wanted to go. When I suggested we save for a kitchen renovation, she'd nod and then book a weekend trip to visit her sister. Once during dinner with her friends, I mentioned an article I'd read about municipal bonds, and she'd laughed. "David and his spreadsheets," she'd said, rolling her eyes. Everyone chuckled. I smiled, ate my pasta, let it go. I let a lot go. The mortgage came out of my account. So did the car insurance, the property taxes, the utilities. Her income went into her personal account, which she used for household expenses and personal things. I never asked for an accounting. It seemed petty. We were partners, I told myself. Partners trust each other. I should have paid attention when she started taking calls in the other room, when Mark's name appeared on her phone with increasing frequency. "He's going through a hard time," she'd explained. "I'm just being supportive. He was part of my life for 7 years. I can't just pretend he doesn't exist." I'd nodded, made room for it, the way I made room for everything. 3 days after my birthday, I came home from work and found her in the living room. She was sitting on the couch with her laptop open, Mark beside her. They were looking at apartment listings. "We're helping him find a place," she said. "His lease is up." Mark didn't look up, just nodded toward me like I was the landlord walking past. I stood there holding my briefcase. "You're apartment hunting. For him." "He needs help, David, and I have the time." "Right." I set my briefcase down, walked into the kitchen. My chest felt tight, but not from anger, from clarity. That evening she cooked dinner, salmon and asparagus. Mark stayed. She set 3 places. I sat down, ate, listened to them talk about neighborhoods and square footage and whether street parking mattered. She passed him the bread basket before she passed it to me. After dinner, I loaded the dishwasher while they reviewed rental applications on the couch. Mark's laugh carried into the kitchen, easy and comfortable. Sarah's voice went soft when she spoke to him, a gentleness I hadn't heard directed at me in months, maybe years. I dried my hands, walked upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't feel angry, I felt focused. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. I didn't pack a bag that night. I didn't confront anyone. I went to work the next morning like always. Reviewed contracts, approved invoices, came home. But I started documenting. I took screenshots of her text messages with Mark. Casual stuff mostly, but the frequency told a story. I logged into our joint account and ran a report going back 2 years. Then I looked at the credit card statements. There were charges I didn't recognize. Weekend hotel stays, dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. A jewelry purchase in July for $800. I'd never received jewelry. I didn't confront her about any of it. I just saved everything. PDFs, screenshots, bank statements, organized them into folders on a USB drive I kept in my desk at work. On Thursday, I called an attorney. Her name was Michelle Garrett. She came recommended by a colleague who'd gone through his own divorce 3 years prior. I need a consultation, I said. What's the situation? My wife gave my birthday gift to her ex-husband. She's been spending our money on him, and I think she's been doing it for a while. There was a pause, then, how long have you been married? 16 years, California, community property state. Bring everything you have, financial records, communication logs, anything that establishes pattern of behavior. I met with Michelle on Saturday morning while Sarah thought I was at the hardware store. I brought the USB drive. She reviewed it on her laptop while I drank terrible office coffee. This is thorough, she said. I work in compliance. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who'd seen this before. Your wife has been funneling marital assets to a third party. The hotel charges alone establish a case. The gift redirection is just insult added to injury. What do I do? You prepare, quietly. We file when you're ready, not when you're emotional. You'll need to open a separate account, route your direct deposit there, document every shared expense you cover from this point forward, and you do not let her know you're doing any of this. I nodded. How long does this take? Depends on how cooperative she is. But given what I'm seeing here, I'd guess she'll fight. People who take tend to justify it to themselves. They'll claim they deserved it. I left her office at 11, stopped at the hardware store on the way home so I'd have a bag to show for my time. Bought cabinet hinges I didn't need. The quiet war had begun. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Sarah move through the house like she owned every inch of it. She didn't ask how my day was. She didn't offer to cook. She spent most evenings on her phone, texting. Sometimes she'd leave the room to take calls. I'd hear her voice through the walls, warm and animated. Mark came by twice more, once to pick up a box of his things she'd been storing in our garage, once to return a book. Both times I was polite, offered him water, asked how the apartment search was going. Good, man, he said. Sarah's been a huge help. She's good at that, I said. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. Or if he did, he didn't care. On a Wednesday evening, my phone buzzed. A text from the bank. Large transfer initiated from joint account. Confirm if authorized? I opened the banking app. Sarah had moved $4,000 from our joint savings to her personal checking. I took a screenshot, declined the transfer. 10 minutes later, she came into the living room. Why did you block my transfer? I looked up from my book. I didn't block it. The bank flagged it for review. Happens with larger amounts. I need that money. For what? Her jaw tightened. That's not really your concern. It's a joint account. Pretty sure that makes it my concern. She stared at me. I'd never pushed back before. Not like this. Mark needs help with his deposit, she said finally. Then Mark should ask his family, or get a loan, or save up. You're being cruel. I'm being practical. $4,000 is a lot of money to give someone who isn't your husband. She left the room. I heard her on the phone upstairs, voice rising. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear. Frustration. Disbelief. I went back to my book. The next morning, Michelle called. I've drafted the petition. We can file any time, but I want to make sure you're ready. Once this starts, it's public. She'll know, and she'll react. I checked the time. 8:47 a.m. File it, I said. You're sure? I'm sure. Sarah was served with divorce papers on Friday afternoon while she was at lunch with Mark. I know because I received a confirmation email from the process server at 1:22 p.m. I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed. I didn't check it until after. She came home at 4:15. I heard the front door slam. She walked into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables for dinner. What the hell is this? She was holding the papers. Divorce petition. You can't be serious. I set the knife down, wiped my hands. I'm very serious. Because of the money? Because I tried to help someone? Because you gave my birthday gift to your ex-husband? Because you've been spending our money on him for months? Because you stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as a resource? Her face went red. You're making this about Mark. This is about you being controlling. I've never controlled a single thing you've done, Sarah. That's actually the problem. I let you do whatever you wanted. I assumed you'd extend me the same respect. Respect? You're divorcing me. You divorced me when you decided he mattered more. I'm just filing the paperwork. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. We can fix this. No. David, come on. We've been together 16 years. I know. I was there. She set the papers on the counter. Her hands were shaking. I'll stop talking to him. I'll transfer the money back. We can go to counseling. I met her eyes. You're not hearing me. I don't want you to stop talking to him. I don't want the money back. I don't want counseling. I want a divorce. Why? Because you showed me who you are, and I believe you. The weeks that followed were predictable. Sarah hired an attorney. They requested full financial disclosure, which I provided within 48 hours. Michelle had prepared everything in advance: bank statements, tax returns, documentation of every marital expense I'd covered, while Sarah funneled money to Mark. Sarah's attorney tried to argue I was hiding assets. Michelle responded with a letter so detailed and precise, it shut down that line of questioning immediately. Then came the phone calls. Late at night, Sarah crying, asking why I was doing this. Then Mark, calling from her phone, telling me I was being unreasonable. Then her mother, lecturing me about the sanctity of marriage. I didn't answer any of them. I saved the voicemails, added them to the file. In early November, we had our first settlement conference. It was held in a bland conference room downtown, fluorescent lights and gray carpet. Sarah sat across from me with her attorney. She dressed carefully, hair done, makeup perfect, like she thought appearance would matter. Michelle slid a folder across the table. Financial summary. Mr. Chen covered 82% of marital expenses over the last 3 years, while Mrs. Chen diverted funds to a third party. We have documentation. Sarah's attorney opened the folder, flipped through. His expression didn't change, but I saw him glance at Sarah. We'd like to propose a division of assets, he said. I'm sure you would, Michelle said, but given the circumstances, we're not interested in negotiation. Mrs. Chen can keep her personal accounts in her car. Mr. Chen keeps the house, his retirement accounts, and the joint savings. No spousal support. That's not equitable, Sarah's attorney said. Neither is stealing, Michelle replied. Sarah leaned forward, looked directly at me. David, please, can we talk? Just the two of us? I didn't look away, but I didn't soften either. There's nothing to talk about. I made a mistake. I got confused. Mark was going through something and I wanted to help and You chose, I said quietly. You chose who mattered when you handed him my birthday gift. Everything after that was just confirmation. Her eyes filled. It was just a watch. No, it was respect, and you gave it to someone else. She broke then. Actually broke. Tears running down her face, hands shaking. Her attorney put a hand on her arm. For just a moment, I saw her clearly. Not as the villain, just as someone who'd made a long series of small, selfish choices and couldn't understand why they'd led here. I felt something then, not pity, not quite, just recognition that she was human, flawed, capable of regret. But regret doesn't undo damage. It just acknowledges it. I stood up. I think we're done here. Michelle gathered her files. We walked out, left them sitting there. The divorce finalized in January. Sarah signed the papers without further contest. I changed the locks on the house the same day, deleted her contact from my phone, boxed up the last of her things, and left them on the porch. I stood in the kitchen that evening, the same kitchen where I'd smelled vanilla frosting on my birthday. The light came through the window at that same angle. Soft, golden. But this time the house wasn't quiet with avoidance. It was quiet with peace. I poured coffee, sat at the table, opened my laptop. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt unburdened. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I should have fought harder to save the marriage, if I should have confronted her sooner. The truth is, I don't know. Maybe I should have seen it earlier. Maybe I enabled it by being too accommodating. But once I saw it clearly, I knew what I had to do. Silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's preparation. If you'd been in my place, would you have given her a second chance? Or would you have walked away the moment she handed your gift to someone else? Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your presence means more than you know. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe. Let's keep walking this road together.